This is an argument that is so obscure, it's borderline laughable, and what it really is someone attempting to take their understanding and imprint it on the text. In other words, take a conclusion and this anything that differs from this conclusion, even if I see words that seem to counter what my conclusion says, must mean that those words mean something different. Here's what I mean if you're not following. If you go to Matthew chapter 7, starting verse 21 all the way through 23, I'm sorry, listen to what it said. Now, it seems pretty clear on its face what it means, but there are those, and I don't know why, I don't know if there's more and more people that are coming to this conclusion or not, but I want to show you how this is wrong and how you deal with this. And so in Matthew 7:21 it says, "Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father, that person will enter heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and done or perform many miracles in your name? And then I will declare to them," here it is, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness." Now, there is some sort of textual variant with this last part. I won't deal with that. But oh, by the way, if there's a true way you practice iniquity or you works of iniquity, really, if there is a variant, it actually should be translated as lawlessness, or one that's doing or working against the law or lawlessness. So I want you to look at this phrase, these words in the Greek, and it's pretty straightforward. It really is. But there are those now that are looking for a way around what the clear meaning of this text means. This word right here is udipate, which is never, egnon, having or knowing, hemos, which is you or you people. So I have never, Jesus says, I have never known you. Now, the issue with this is when we're dealing with eternal security, Jesus is making the statement, seems to be that Jesus is making the statement that not that I used to know you or I once knew you. Obviously, he's not saying that I don't know anything about you, but he's making I never knew you. I never had that sort of relationship with you. And so that part I think is pretty straightforward. Uh, Udipate egnon hemas. That is pretty clear. As a matter of fact, when you consult commentaries and even lexicons, you're going to come up with the same sort of understanding. I have never known you. I've never been known you. As a matter of fact, the single aorist active indicative. Okay, I was trying to see if there's anything in the grammar that would set off any alarm. Say no, not this or definitely this. This seems pretty straightforward. There are those, however, that will say that no, that's not what he meant. As a matter of fact, I remember even Dr. Michael Brown make this statement that he says that this is Jewish tradition, and it's not. Truth be told, there's a phrase that was common in that day to mean when I say I never knew you, that almost like I don't know you anymore. You're not who I thought you were. And I came across someone sent me this, and so I'm looking at this, and I want to play this, and I want to show you how flawed this thinking is.
I'm gonna show you something even better real quick, something that hopefully will give you some clear. I'm gonna pull this up real quick, JP.
But we do the will of the Father, just so you know, before we break this down.
Okay. Yep. I want you to understand the Jewish culture as well too, because that's important.
Yeah, of course it is.
Okay. And you can actually look up these resources. They are available on lexicons. How do I? Okay.
Now, I want you to listen to what he said. He's talking about in the cultural background of that day. That's important.
All right. So let me go back to a second. Okay. All right. So the words "I never knew you" go away
Yeah.
from me, right? You who behave lawlessly.
Yeah.
Cultural background study by Craig S. Keener. The words "I never knew you." This was a recognized formula of repudiation and rejection. So he gives the resources that in the Jewish culture, the words "I never knew you" is just a figure of speech. It's not something to take literally. So this was a recognized formula of repudiation and excommunication in the Jewish community. So a rabbi would say these words to a disobedient disciple. So these are actually Jewish or rabbinic writings. Okay, we can look at Moed Katan 16:8-22. Rabbi Shimon told his father, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, what Bar Kappara had said, and Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi became angry with him when Bar Kappara came at some later point to visit. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi said to him, Bar Kappara, I do not know you at all. Bar Kappara understood that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi had taken his statement to heart. An example was insulted. He subsequently behaved as if he had been admonished as a self-imposed punishment for 30 days. So in the Jewish culture, this was a way to either put them on a temporary ban or a permanent ban. So for example, let's say if somebody from Russia wants to come and learn about the Black community, right? So if I say the word straight, like, hey, bro, you straight. The word straight has 8 different meanings. You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody's coming over the house and I'm making some food and I ask them, hey, bro, you straight?
Now let's go back to this. I want to just kind of go to what he's saying, and this is just his rationale is flawed. It's just not well thought out. What it really is because he might reject eternal security. I've got to find a way to get past this. Again, I've seen Michael Brown do this, and there's just no basis for this. This is why you don't see commentary stating the same thing. So I want to go to I think this is his page. I believe this is his page. And so I want to put this on the screen. I want you guys to see this. And there's a problem with this. A couple of things. One, what he's doing is he's reading from, I'm going to show you, I'm going to pull this up in just a little bit, but he's reading this, and the commentary says, I never knew you. This was a recognized form of repudiation and rejection. Now, remember, he's stating that this was from that day. It was part of the culture. So when a Jewish person says that, I never knew you, he's not saying that, and obviously Jesus wasn't saying that I never knew about you or who you were, but I've never known, in other words, I've never had a relationship with you. And so this is a recognized way of repudiation that, yeah, I know you, but we're not together now. You almost like you're dead to me now. Well, let's go back to that. I want to show you something. And he's pointing out where this came from. This comes from, ladies and gentlemen, from the Babylonian Talmud. The Babylonian Talmud, interesting to note, is when this was written. Remember, he says this was of that day, culturally speaking, a recognized way of repudiation. There's a whole lot wrong with this. Going back to this, he's reading from Moed Katan 16a. This is 1623. And this phrase right here that's highlighted is where you get this. And he said to him, Bar Kapara, I do not know you at all. And so is he saying that I didn't know, I don't know anything about you? No, well, obviously this is repudiation there in this text. There's a problem. First of all, this is not Hebrew. This is Aramaic. But secondly, even more importantly, when was this written? This was not a recognized way of repudiation for that culture of that day. Why do we say that? Because this is 600 or 700 years after the fact. The culture has changed. What we speak in English is not the same as what we spoke in English 100 or 200 or, you know what, 600, 700 years ago. It's different. As a matter of fact, a lot of us can testify that what we say today isn't how we would say it 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Certain words change. And then you saw him use, because he's a younger person, use the vernacular about the word straight. Are you straight? Well, obviously words change over the course of time, and we use certain words. So even his definition kind of backs up the point that words morph over time, and we can make things to be kind of cliché-ish or become a figure of speech, which is what he's doing is, let's go back to this. I want to show you something. He's saying that this word, this figure of speech that's used here from the Aramaic to point out, I do not know you at all, is a way of repudiation. Why? Because I do not know you. He takes that, by the way, I don't know how you do that to take this to be similar to the Greek version of this passage where I never knew you. This udapate, egnon, hemas, two different phrases. And because we would say in the English, I never knew you, if someone took these Hebrew words, or in this case, Aramaic words, 600, 700 years later, to say, well, these words also mean I never knew you. And they don't really, by the way, they really don't mean I never knew you. That's not even what they say in the Aramaic. But the point is, that is a faulty, and I wouldn't even say a sophomoric way, because I've never seen anyone do it that way. The only way that you can come up with that particular conclusion, that Jesus didn't mean that I never, ever knew you, not to say how we would say, Jesus is not saying that I used to know you, now I don't. He said, I've never known you. I've never had that relationship with you. The only way that you can get around that is if you have a different presupposition, that is, you can lose your salvation, and that's what this text is saying. That's not what this text is saying. Not in the Greek, not in the English, nor if there were the Aramaic, I don't think it would be saying it in the Aramaic. There's only one time in the Greek New Testament that this phrase, these words constructed together, are there. Udapate, egnon, hemas. That's the only time that this phrase is there in this passage. But these words in and of themselves seem to be pretty straightforward. And so you're going to have people that are going to come up with these brand new arguments. And a new argument, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you got a new argument that people haven't heard before. But there has to be some sort of coherency to it. There has to be some logic to it. There has to be a nexus to go from here to here. So this word, in these words in Greek, we would translate in English with these three words. These words in Aramaic, 600 or 700 years later, that we also translate in these English words. These English words are similar to the English translated words from Greek 600-700 years prior. Well, ipso facto, they mean the same thing. No, they don't. No, they don't. That's just not how translations work. And so this is a pretty poor example of trying to make a presupposition fit and even trying to use the languages. This is just bad hermeneutics. It's bad interpretation, bad translation. It's just bad scholarship. It's just bad all the way around. And so what does this passage mean? Jesus declaring, though you did all these different things, the fact of the matter is, I never knew you. And to go even further, you are the one that is practicing, or you are the one, this is a participle, you are the one, this is a present middle participle, so you are the one that has been doing continuously these things. That's been your lifestyle. So I've never known you. A person who is a believer is never described as a person who is continuously doing those things. Amen.